Cheshire, England. Tonight, you make history. Tonight, the United States of America and me, T.O.D.D., and Virginia's favorite son invade the United Kingdom for the very first time. Right here on Tallboy Radio. It's not feast or famine. It's just what you need. It's like two titans crossing the Rubicon, one-on-one, and there's no turning back. And guess what? We're here.
Right, and welcome to Tallboy Radio, Todd and Johnny. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about what you're drinking, or a credential check, as you guys call it over there, and tell us a little bit about your podcast as well.
Oh, smokes. I guess I'll start since my name is the first thing that you'll hear on the thing. My name is Todd Orndorf from Central PA, to be exact. And I've been in the podcast game since 2010. It wasn't even known as podcast then. It was called internet radio. So I'm kind of, I like to consider myself one of the original OGs of this whole game. But one thing that we do is have a credential check. And I appreciate and respect the fact that there are beverages with you gentlemen right now, because on our end, it's kind of fitting for us. And before I guess, disclose what it is I'm actually going to have. The reason why, I don't even know if I ever told Simon this. The reason why I have a credential on every show, which is a drink in hand. In order to be on the show, you have to have a drink in hand. That's the deal. That's the gimmick. That's what you need to have. So, like, my whole life, I've been a freaking loner, man. I'll do stuff. I'll hang out with work people at work, but at home, boom. Like, once I leave, it's just me. I don't really go out and hang out with the quote unquote guys or whatever. So, always wondering, have a drink with the buddies and whatnot. I'm sorry, I've never really been that way. However, every Thursday at 9:30 Eastern, I get to have a drink with my buddy Johnny Simo over here. So we have a credential check. That's why I do that, because I never really did that stuff in life. But in the old flasky that I got right now, I have a little bit of Bird Dog whiskey, because I chose Bird Dog because we're just on the way into hunting season, and that's my background. That's Johnny Simon's background. As you can tell behind the guy, holy smokes, look at that stuff. You kidding me? That's a lot of money spent on a yard sale. He didn't get that. So, I'm drinking Bird Dog. Todd Orndorf is the name, and podcasting is the game, baby. Simo, talk to him.
My name's Johnny Simonetti, and Todd drugged me into this whole podcast thing about 2 years ago. I'd gotten into it listening to the Teddy and Shiner show. I've been friends with those guys for a long time, and I'm the proclaimed hype man for Tattooed in the Wild, which is it's a hunting show, and also it's the name of buddy's tattoo shop here in Waynesboro, Virginia. And like I said, Todd drugged me into this. He called me up one day and said, "I got a question for you. How would you like to be my co-host on my podcast?" And I went, "Me? You heard how I talk, right? I mean, I sound like biscuits and gravy here, dude. You really want me on your podcast?" So the rest is history. So we've been doing it for 2 years. I've been doing it with Todd for 2 years, and it's been a lot of fun.
I don't mean to cut you off real quick, although I do that every show. The one thing that he said, is do you understand how I talk? Do you understand what they're probably thinking about the way we talk right now, being over there in the UK? Holy smokes. I'm kind of worried if we fit in or not.
I don't know. We're from a place nearby us called Stoke-on-Trent. So, we're outcasts ourselves in the terms of the way that we talk. So anyway, Johnny Salma, what are you drinking then? Because we've talked a little bit about this on the podcast, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm actually drinking Bush NA. I gave up drinking 1.5 years ago. I completely alcohol free, and I still like to taste the beer. I always have. So I got a hold of some Bush NA and tried it. I was like, you know what, that'll work. So
that's weird, because one of the podcasts that we did, I spoke about non-alcoholic drinks, and I sort of spoke to Andy and Adam, and I asked them if there was a non-alcoholic version of the drinks that they liked, would they be prepared to go to a non-alcoholic bar and drink it if the flavor was the same and everything else? And they were a bit like, well, I'm not sure. So I'd be interested on your take as to, is it the same? Is it not the same? Do you still get that little buzz about drinking a couple of beers, or?
I think it's like for me, mowing grass, you got to have a beer. Just doing yard work around the house, you want to have a beer. And I just, 2 years ago, I just took it entirely to the extreme. I made a decision. I drank too much. It was time for me. But I still had that craving, like working or whatever. And I started with a Heineken Zero. I was like, you know what? Let me try this. And it curbs my, I guess, craving for the taste of the beer without the alcohol. And you know what? It's actually good. And like I said, I'm a year and a half in, completely sober. So it's been great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, fair play, yeah.
You can tell. I mean, it tastes like Todd's had it. Todd came up, what was it? March, April? Yeah.
April 3rd.
Yeah. And he said, let me try one of those. He's like, you know what? It really tastes like beer. I was like, yeah, it does.
It was creepy good, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was a little confusing at the beginning, because I'm like, wait a second, like he's ribbing me or something, this can't be real. Sure enough, man, I'm telling you what, I firmly believe now. Obviously, if you have multiple of regular beer in this, there will be a difference at the end in the way that your body language is and such. But if you just like pour some in a shot glass and pour some in a shot glass and down them both and say which one, I'm probably convinced that you ain't gonna be able to tell. It's that close. I was impressed.
Because that's weird. Because in the UK, we get a few non-alcoholic sort of beers, and they're just starting to sort of become a bit more popular. But historically, they haven't tasted great, and you actually can taste the difference. And that's why I was really curious, obviously, to get you guys on, in particular, you, Johnny, to talk about that and think, is it the same? Do you feel it tastes the same? And if you did actually have a product that tasted the same, but you actually took the alcohol out, would more people then consider drinking it, sort of thing? Because is it the taste, or is it the fact that you like the alcohol content because it gets you a bit, you're buzzing and you're with your mates and all of that? Is it? So I'm just curious for your take on it, really, because in the UK, like I say, historically it was a bit rubbish, really. It didn't taste great. But if you're saying the taste is okay, then do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the taste is, to me, it's no different. Like they just came out with Budweiser Zero, and I tried some of that, and Budweiser has a distinctive taste, and it actually tastes like Budweiser, and it has zero alcohol in it. Now, if someone's wanting to, like you said, hanging out with the boys, and you want to catch a buzz, you're not going to get that. I got away from it because I just took that to the extremes. So that was my decision to get away from it. But just the one to have a beer, it satisfies my cravings.
Yeah, fair play. What are you drinking anyway, Gaza? What are you got in your glass?
Well, at the moment, I have an Erdinger, which is a German beer. It's about 5.3%, so and it's lovely, quite refreshing. I've drank a couple prior to you guys joining us, and just in case the Erdinger goes, I actually have a Belgian white beer called Blue Moon, which
good stuff.
So you guys probably recognise that from, they sell that over in the States, and you're meant to serve a little bit of orange. You sort of, a couple of bottles worth with an orange on top, but I haven't got the orange, but that's the one that's gonna go down next.
Am I able to see that first bottle again? Because from the view that I got, it looks like your beer comes in a wine bottle. That thing looks massive. Am I wrong here?
Hold on, wait, is that probably a little bit better?
By the wine bottles? Okay, there you go.
That's better.
I was gonna say, here in the States, we're doing it all wrong. If that's what you're getting.
Yeah, you used to Stubbies. Yeah, you're used to Stubbies. We've got like massive, great big wine bottles of the stuff. It's brilliant.
That's what I'm talking about.
They call those 40s in the state.
Right.
And just in case you were curious, that's the glass. I don't think you can quite see that. It's just a TBR TBR podcast glass. There you go. You should be able to see that. Perfect.
That's next level merch, gentlemen. Good for you.
Yeah. We're not selling them yet. They're all prototypes. There'll be a few more prototypes that I shared earlier in the podcast. You'll be able to see on the YouTube. What about yourself, Andy? Andy's the quiet guy in the corner, in case you're wondering.
Yeah. My microphone is on.
With an amazing beard, I must add.
I know, right?
To be fair, I think in a way, from what Todd was saying, I think Todd and Andy are sort of brothers from another mother, because Andy just like hates people as well, so they would get it perfectly.
Yeah, sat alone drinking. I'm on a Belgian beer called Quack. It's 8.5%. I'm just going to focus on that. Yeah, I don't think. Oh, hang on.
He got the small bottle.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah,
He has got the wine bottle on though. That's right.
It's quite late at night. I can't drink too much.
Yeah,
No.
I want to say something about that real quick. How freaking cool is it? You guys are 5 hours ahead of us over here on the East Coast of the United States. And the fact that you guys stayed up as late as you have for this, it's 11:33 at night there, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, you guys are absolute rock stars for making time for us on this. I greatly appreciate it. I know Johnny does too, because anytime that a podcast host gets asked to be a guest on another show, it's like, honestly, this was on my mind all day long. I can't tell you, like, I got like 6 more hours, baby. You know what I mean? Like, let's freaking rock and roll. And so from a professional standpoint and from a friend standpoint, I greatly appreciate you guys like staying up this late, because Simon's getting older. He likes to go to bed early sometimes. I'm at the ripe old age of 34, and I feel like I'm 54. So sometimes going to bed is pretty early is the thing that happens with us. So the fact that you guys having to stay up for us, I do greatly appreciate that.
I think doing that intro sort of pumped us up a bit, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
that was one take, by the way. I was pretty proud of that. I didn't know what I was saying, but it was one take, so I'll take it.
It sounded freaking awesome, to be fair, dude. So yeah, hats off to you for that.
It took us back to the golden age of WWE, or WWF as we used to call it, and back then when we first started watching it. I tell you.
Well, to be fair, the British Bulldog is in my top 5, just so you guys know. All right,
Davey boy, you can't beat Davey boy. Was absolutely fair play to you.
Yeah, he was a dude from Leeds, wasn't he? I think he was at Leeds, North Yorkshire way, or is it Central Yorkshire? I'm not sure. But
He had
a broad accent.
Leeds.
Yeah. It's in Yorkshire. They do speak like that up there. Very difficult to understand.
He started as a tag team, and there was another British guy that he fought with, and he didn't get quite as famous. I can't for the life of me remember his name, but obviously
his name was the Dynamite Kid.
Oh, yes.
His real life cousin, by the way.
Right.
Is that right?
But he never sort of made it, did he? He wasn't as big as the British Bulldog.
No, because he got hurt. And I think he formally retired in '89 due to a severe back injury. He was in a wheelchair for like the past 20 some years, and he just passed away last year.
Oh. Yeah. We did a couple of episodes, didn't we, on wrestling? We did 2 episodes. We did one about the golden era of wrestling. You know, when we watched, you got a Hulkster and those guys.
I can't believe it's taking you that long to notice his T-shirt.
There you go, Simon. Bring it. His name, because his name on Skype is right over the, boom. So it's kind of hard to tell.
There you go. Just pick your T-shirt up like that. Come on, dude. There we go.
So we did one in the golden era, and it wasn't that popular. And we did one called the Dark Side of Wrestling, and that one was really popular. That says a lot about the human mindset, doesn't it?
The Dark Side one was very much to do with sort of the underbelly and the steroid abuse and the on the road for 300 days of the year, and that one actually was much more popular than the upbeat one, which was, oh my God, how good was the Hulkster, and how good was the Ultimate Warrior, and how good was, and actually the Dark Side one was much more popular, really. So that was a bit weird.
That's because controversy creates cash, gentlemen.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
I was telling these guys as well, Todd, you got a bit of experience in that field as well yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've been an athlete my entire life. I was a baseball player, and I got hurt. Had to get Tommy John surgery, and so then after rehab, I got back into playing and such. And it just so happens I was like, you know what, man, I don't watch wrestling for fun. I watch this stuff, like I can't watch it for fun anymore. I study this crap. Like, why did this person do this at this moment? Why did he, like, psychologically, why did he move the referee over here without, just the whole thing about it has been so intriguing to me. And obviously from the intro to the show, the speaking part has played a little bit of an influence on my life. I mean, I'm not going to say I talk to my kids that way, but guess what? I talk to my kids that way too. But, so the whole thing with me is being a guy who stutters. It was really hard for me to just accept the fact for a long time that my name was Todd Orndorf, and this is what the heck I have to deal with. All my life, I wanted to like pretend like I would walk through a curtain and be somebody else and just forget who the heck I am. So I didn't have to think about having a conversation with somebody, as this person, where in my mind, if I was some sort of fictional character, then I could, boom, now I don't have to worry about nothing. So professional wrestling, it may sound super silly, and if it does, that's totally understandable, but it seriously in so many ways drove me to have a podcast, drove me to have a friendship like I do with Johnny, because I'm telling you, up to 8 years ago, I would have the hardest time having a face-to-face conversation with somebody. It would drive me crazy, like sit in a dark room afterwards and just like, Salker like, why can't you speak fluently? So honestly, that stuff drove me into going to professional wrestling school in 2009. And one of the coolest things in the world to me was at the time, like my parents, like all my life I always talked about, like I want to be a wrestler, right? Well, I'm 5'10", I'm 210 pounds. I'm not really the prototype for it, but if you got the gift, the gab, maybe something can happen for you, right? Talk people into the building, whatever. I would have been a horrible manager, though, because I stutter. So, like, it would have been too much mic time. It wouldn't have been good. So I went and trained. And up until February 2nd of 2019, my parents didn't even know that I completed, like, the whole wrestling school. I never told them. They hated it. They hated the fact that I went in the first place. But I was on a show, That Reload podcast, because those guys a shout out. They're absolute rock stars for us. I was on their show, told my life story. I was like, hey, want to hear something my parents haven't heard yet? I completed the whole thing and nobody knew, but I was going to continue on with it because I loved it so much. It hurts like you would not freaking believe. It hurts. Yeah. Like if you don't know what's under that canvas, it's 2x12s. Like you're landing on wood with like a 1/4 inch of carpet padding. Like that's it. You know what I mean? So like it seriously, truly hurts. And, so then while I was doing that, I got contacted again by the Philadelphia Phillies. And with me being a baseball guy, like, okay, wait a second. Hold up. There's a little bit more money in baseball. I might love this stuff, but I spent my entire life like grooming myself for this one opportunity. So I walked away from that and met with the Phillies, and that was the end of my professional wrestling dreams, other than talking smack to Simon every single week on a microphone.
Well, that dude looks like he can take it a little bit.
He's a pretty tough kid.
Kid. I love when he calls me kid.
He's 16 years older than me.
Yeah.
Well, see, I know in the UK, you probably don't know what it's like over here. I don't know if you guys have visited the UK.
Unfortunately, no.
Well, there's a lot of Americana comes over. There's a lot of people looking over to the United States. A lot of our TV comes from over there. A lot of our sports comes from over there. Me and Gaz and Andy, all big NFL fans. We've been to a few games when they come over here. But yeah, wrestling was huge over here when we were kids, wasn't it?
Yeah, massive. Like, I say the golden era, and I've mentioned to Adam the golden era, and it was Bret the Hitman, it was Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man, it was The Undertaker. I loved sort of Jimmy Snuka. Just brilliant. Just really random guys that you wouldn't really, I suppose, unless you studied WWE back in the day, WWF, you wouldn't really know who these guys were. But I loved it. I loved the theatre. One thing I want to ask you though, Todd, and it's something that I was asked and I said I didn't know. I've never been in it. Do the wrestlers, when they fight, do they sit the night before in a restaurant across the table from each other and go, well, if you do that, I'll do that, and then you'll do this. And is it that much of a play, or is it just, you know what, I'm just going to beat the crap out of you?
So,
Come on, trade secrets. Come on.
No problem. No problem.
answer.
I've never been in that situation where I had to do that, because the time the training ended was about the time that the Phillies called. But I'd like to think of myself as a little bit of a historian too. Like I don't watch, like, I'll watch the Yankees, I'll watch the Steelers and stuff, you know what I mean? But other than that, like, I go to bed and, like, tonight, for instance, I'll have like the 1992 Royal Rumble on, and like that's what I'll fall asleep to. That's just what I do daily. I'm such a nerd. But it's not the night before, right? So they'll be like, if you're good, if you consider yourself like a top pro, okay, you'll be in the locker room, say, hey, what do you want to do tonight? And maybe give, I don't know, 2 or 3 spots, and then here's how we're going to have the finish, as in the go home, as in the 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
Everything else is just ad lib in the ring.
Wow.
So it's not like, so you mentioned, so the Macho Man, he was one guy though, who was like, all right, we got to, he's like, there's step 1, step 2, steps, like he would map out the entire match verbatim, and his opponent would have to remember that. You know how hard that would be?
Yeah. You
know what I mean?
It takes 2 to tango, doesn't it? So he can plan it all out, but he needs the fall guy to be like, oh God, I've got to remember this, I've got to remember that.
That's right. So it takes, it does take 2 to tango. You have to be on the same page. But if you have the chemistry, you don't even have to talk very much. You just know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. That makes sense. Because
there was communication prior, but it's not, like, all right, in the first 5 minutes, here's what we're gonna do. In 5 to 10 minutes, here's what we're gonna do. Nobody could remember that.
Yeah.
And
it's
if
not
the
it's
crowd
not a
isn't
scripted
reacting
dance
to you, it's not worth even doing half the stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay. No,
that's true.
Because that was a question that loads of people used to say, oh, it's all scripted, and they used to meet and they used to say, well, I'll do this. And I didn't know, obviously, so I was like, well, I'm not sure whether that is the case or not, but they're athletes, they're sports people, they train, they practice, they're professionals. I don't know whether they do that. So it's just interesting, your insight there is to say they probably have some idea as to what the outcome will be, but how you get there is going to be a bit ad-libbed. So that's quite cool.
It's very cool.
Are you aware then that we had a UK wrestling scene as well, like way back when, like I was going to say late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Did you get any of that over there, like Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy and people like that?
Haystacks Calhoun?
No. It was a dude called Giant Haystacks. And basically, he looked like, he probably looked like a Haystacks Calhoun. He like his great big beard, looked like he slept rough. You know what I mean? But he was a big, huge guy when he like 6'7", 6'8". But the main guy was a dude called Big Daddy, wasn't he? He was just this avuncular, chubby guy with white hair. His real name was Shirley Crabtree or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was unusual. Most it was sort of held in like really small venues. It normally ended up with some little old lady getting carried away and climbing into the ring and giving someone a belting with a handbag, and that's normally how most fights ended. But it was a very different vibe to WWE. It was a little bit smaller.
There was no glitz, glamour, razzmatazz. There was no sort of Vince McMahon sort of showbiz thrown at it. There was no big lights. It was all very much what we would class as little leisure centres, little recreation rooms, little auditoriums. You'd be wrestling in front of 100 people, 200 people, as opposed to 10,000 people.
Right.
And that was the late 70s, early 80s in the UK. And I suppose maybe that's where British Bulldog looked at the wrestling and thought, maybe I want to get involved in that, but then maybe saw America. I don't know. But yeah, the UK wrestling scene was nothing compared to the the glitz and the glamour of the WWF back in the day. Not at all.
Right. Yeah. Over here, it's what the one thing I appreciated as a younger kid, I guess. Simon knows this. Simon used to watch too. Over here in the States, it's like so much more show, right? But where Johnny grew up in his region of the United States, it was more of the NWA, right, Simo?
Yeah, we had a lot of NWA, but it was still WWF was. I guess back in the day, I guess it was NWA.
Yeah. So, which is where Ric Flair he became the man in the NWA, which the do you know the history of the NWA? Did you ever hear of it?
We know little bits.
A little bit.
We got a little bit of the NWA over here and WCW, but it was mainly WWE that we had.
Not the NWO, the NWA.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was like all around the country there was like a total of 27 small territories, and all within the NWA, and there'd be one traveling world champion who would go from territory to territory to territory, separate from Vince McMahon's company.
Right.
So there was a territory in the Carolinas, in Georgia, in Florida, 3 in Tennessee, in Portland, Oregon, and in San Francisco. And the traveling world champion would just go from state to state to state. And that's how Ric Flair became as famous as he did. The history of wrestling is amazing. It was so mafia-esque, and now it's just, what's up, brother? It's just not the same.
What you gonna
do, brother?
What you gonna do?
So
Didn't like Vince McMahon bring them together, didn't he? And buy all the smaller ones and
That's right.
Make it what it is today, yeah.
Well, Vince, what he did was he looked at every territory, and he stole everybody's top talent. So if Andre the Giant, let's just say, was in Memphis, Tennessee, he would say, hey, look, why don't you come work for me? X amount of dollars guaranteed. Okay, holy smokes, guaranteed money? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then he would go to Minnesota and grab Hulk Hogan. And he's like, hey, Hulkster, I'll give you this much money. Come over with us. So he took everybody's top guy. So then all the territories then had no stars at that time. So then they all just faded away.
There's a bit of mafioso style, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. There's hey, people say that money can't buy love. That's BS, brother. You know what I mean?
Amen. So just take you back to something else that you mentioned earlier on there. You're talking about the Reload podcast. So you guys talk a lot on your podcast about Reload Rub and how good that stuff is. So we like to talk about beer in here, and obviously Andy will tell you can't have beer if you're not going to have a little bit of meat. This is a dude who eats nothing but meat. I can assure you that. That sounded very questionable. I apologise for that one. So I've emailed those guys a couple of times about shipping to the UK. You need to just have a word there, because I want to try some of that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to those guys about Reload, buddy. You're the man.
I tell you, as a matter of fact, what's on the menu tomorrow at work, the guy who owns the construction building next to us, that he has his own business, the other week, I always bring in food. Whatever I cook on the weekends, I always bring it in, and he fell in love with it. Last week, he handed me $60 and said, order me every one of those rubs that you use. Okay. Well, I come in he brought it in yesterday, and he brought his smoker to work because he never uses it. I'm fixing 3 pork tenderloins and a partial deer ham tomorrow.
Wow.
But the stuff sells itself.
Wow.
So he's absolutely right. It does. It's that freaking good. But so, he's introduced Reload to people. I've introduced Reload to people. If anybody wants Reload and they're in the US, until we figure out what's going on overseas, make sure to use the promo code Toddcast at checkout. Save yourself 10%. And so I introduced Reload to somebody about 2.5 years ago. And they're like, okay, cool. You know what? This stuff looks and it was only from photos, right? And I was like, this lady said this stuff looks really freaking good. I got a big family, we like to try different things or whatever, keep the kitchen fresh. And about a week and a half later goes by, and I get this picture sent to my phone. And I'm like, and it's a garbage can with like 40 seasonings in it. I'm like, what the heck is it? Like, what are you doing? Are you cleaning your house or whatever? And then she sends me another photo, a kitchen cabinet with 4 bottles lined up in that cabinet. She threw everything else away. She threw away garlic powder. She threw away garlic sauce. She threw away the essential, like there's paprika in the garbage can. The things that, the quote unquote normal family would have, it was all in the garbage, and all that there was 4 bottles of Reload. If that doesn't tell you how good that stuff is, I don't know what else to say.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's your selling point straight away there. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I use.
Get rid of the oregano, get rid of the sage, get rid of the paprika, everything else. Get rid of all of that. That's all you need. Get your Reload stuff in there.
That's right. All you need. The only thing, I keep garlic powder, onion powder, and season all around when I make deer jerky, venison jerky. That's the only thing that I keep around, and that's the only reason I keep it is when I make that. Everything else is always nothing but Reload.
Wow.
Yeah. It's powerful, man. I'm telling you. I did a podcast convention up in Niagara Falls, New York, and they gave me, I think it was like 28 bottles or something. Hey, you know what? Take this up there, introduce us to people, have yourself a good time, take the funds and throw it towards your show and everything. So they're good people too, right? That's another reason why. If I thought these people were schmucks, I wouldn't even care. Even if I liked it, I wouldn't plug them. But the fact that they are as good-hearted people as they are, I will plug them to the moon and get nothing for it. And I don't have a problem doing that.
Yeah.
So, so I sold all 28 of these bottles in no time just by doing the smell test. There was 4 different flavors. I cracked the top on one of each, and had some people up at our booth that we had for the show. And they asked what this was. I gave a little history about it. I said, smell that one, smell that one, smell that one. You know what I mean? Every one of them made a sale. It was like, Johnny, when you cracked open Magnum, which is your favorite, when you cracked open Magnum, did it punch you in the face and you enjoyed that? That's probably the only punch you ever enjoyed.
Yeah. The first time I opened up Magnum and I smelled it, I could not get to the store fast enough to go get me a steak and put it on. Now, Bill Jacket that with, I'm telling you, I'm leaning towards that to be my new favorite. It's
a game changer. It's a game changer in the culinary industry. I swear to you. Just wait.
I told Joel, I said, you all have to stop making all these new rubs, all these, because I'm having a hard time picking my favorite now.
Well, I'm not being funny. What you guys need to do is we sort of package it up, send it over to us. We'll pay for some postage, packaging, all of that, and we'll get it over here. And we'll try it in the UK, and you know what? We'll spread the word for you guys. It'll be perfect.
Yeah. In fact, the thing is, Gaz lives right next door to me. We've talked about doing something. We had a meet up the year before last. Didn't get to do it last year for all the dumb reasons. But we talked about doing something out there on the park again, didn't we? Getting everybody together. And if we could do a cook up and maybe do some Reload rub and some of our own beer that we're looking at making, because Andy's making his own beer at the minute.
We've got a park out in front of where me and Adam live. We live actually next door to each other, really. And there was we live in a place called Barrington Park, so it was a Barrington Park summer sort of party, and we all had beers. And what we thought was, we'll take the barbecue out there, we'll throw some meat on there, we'll cook some stuff up, and we'll have some beers. So if you guys have got something that you can send over to us. We'll pay for that. We'll pay for the shipping. That would be perfect. It would be brilliant.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That needs to happen, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Consider it done.
Absolutely.
I will personally make sure you get it.
Absolutely, I will too. Now here's the thing, Simon. Hold up. I know you're a generous man, and I like to think I am too. But if we do this, one thing I want all 5 of us to do here is I want Simon and I to come back on. I want all of us to, even if it's like a small steak or something, make it the same way with Magnum or whatever, and all of us have a bite on here at the same time with Reload Rub. Sound good?
Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
That sounds perfect. 100% we're going to do that.
That's it.
If Andy's okay with eating meat, I don't know. I don't know if he looks like a carnivore or not. They're all jacked up and stuff. But,
I'll take one for the team.
Top man.
Joel and Stacy, we're coming for you, just so you know.
That sounds awesome, though, doing that. 100% we'll do that.
Definitely. The other thing that we wanted to talk about as well, because, and this is an idea you shouted it out on your podcast, and Johnny wasn't bought into the idea. Todd's got this idea for an app, which Johnny wasn't a fan of, dude. You weren't convinced by it at all, were you? The app that he was talking about, where you share your daily information. Like what you have.
Remember what he's talking about, Simon?
No, the audio on my end kind of broke up a little bit when he was talking.
Yeah, Todd came up with this idea for this app where you share literally every bit of information: how far you've walked, how many hours you spent at the gym, which I'm going to surprise you, for me is 0 on a daily basis. What you've had for breakfast, and you got all these different checkboxes, and you thought like you weren't convinced by that, were you, dude?
No.
He almost lost his job. He almost lost his job for not agreeing with me. Just so you guys know, that fool about got 86 that day. I didn't tell him that, but he was almost history, pal.
Good luck to you. But I was like, nah, I'm good.
I think this idea's got legs, dude. Honestly, I was listening to that, and I mentioned it to the wife. I claimed it was my idea, actually, but I was mentioning it to the wife, and she.
Somebody steal my idea already. Brings me on here to be a nice guy. Oh, by the way, I stole your gimmick. No big deal.
I didn't steal your idea. I stole what she said. So when I replied to you saying, look, this is a really good idea because you've got all that data you can sell on to people. I never even thought of that. I just thought it'd be a fun idea, a fun gimmick. But actually, yeah, in terms of what you can do with it, you could make a fortune out of that.
I agree with. Obviously, I agree with you. But the thing, I've brought this up to just a handful of people. Maybe about 6 or 7, and probably 5 of them agree with Simon. So they're, well, just so you know, they're 86 for my life now. They're not even friends anymore. But it's just, it's freaking, it's ridiculous the amount of upside that this thing can have. You know what I mean? Think about it. How many? Being, I guess, an athlete, I grew up having to, pay attention to numbers. Like, what was my freaking ERA, or, the batting averages for this guy's or whatever. I love statistics. Personally, for me, I would love to know how many people the same day did the same crap that I did all over the world. For me, that's just interesting. You know what I mean? And businesses could use it for some sort of, you can't tell me a business can't use in some sort of research something that could be, hey, you know what? We're hot in this market and we didn't even freaking know it. And guess what? We didn't have to do the research. We didn't have to do the research for it. This app is telling us that in this market, we're pretty freaking sexy, baby. So we need to do something about it.
This is it. The targeted marketing that you could do from that is next level. And I generally believe people would like sharing that information, especially people I like, same as yourself, not for sports reasons. I just like statistics. Maths was literally the one thing I was really good at school. And stuff like that is always fascinating me. I love maths. I love statistics. And this is like when you get onto Anchor and you look at the different graphics and where we're popular and where we're not. I'm looking at the percentage and working out, trying to figure out, who's listening on what device and what have you. I find that kind of stuff fascinating. And I thought, yeah, it could be fun. Then I mentioned it to the wife, and that's when I claimed that was my idea. Yeah, you can use the data as well, but she's a lot smarter than me, to be fair. So yeah, what would you?
Smart man.
Yeah,
smart man putting that out there to the world.
Yeah,
But listen, It's just a bunch of guys here. Don't worry about it. You can speak the truth. It's okay.
It's true. Like, listen, anybody who knows me knows I don't have any smart ideas. Yeah. Everything I get, I steal from the wife. Not literally. Yeah. It's pretty obvious to tell from looking at me. I'm a trophy husband. But we did an episode of this podcast, didn't we? We had a couple of guys who were actually going on. Well, you guys call it Shark Tank over there, which is called Dragon's Den in the UK. And they came on and they tried out their pitch to us, didn't they? Yeah. The day before they went on actually on the TV show and tried to sell their sort of gin business to them. They weren't successful with us. Actually, I think Gaz gave them more of a torrid time than the Dragons gave them.
I was a bit of a I'm a bit of a numbers man, so I gave them a bit of a hard time in terms of, what's your profit margins, what's your output, what's your numbers, what's your forecast, and all of that, and they were a little bit sketchy. So I'm a bit like, well, dude, you need to sharpen up on that if you're going to go on that TV program, sort of thing. Look, they're brilliant guys, they're lovely guys. They come on our podcast so quite regularly, and they didn't get, as I say, you guys call it Shark Tank, they didn't get an investment, but we still support them on our podcast. Double Trouble, they started out selling gin and then they went into sort of rum and vodka and whiskey. They now do a beer club where they're selling beer, sort of craft beer. And we try to support them on TBR as much as we can. But yeah, they came to us, didn't they, with a bit of an idea, a bit of a picture, and they sort of said, look, can we run this past you before we go to market effectively? I was like, hell yeah, I'm all for new ideas. I'll steal it. I don't mind that. Unfortunately, I couldn't steal it because they'd already done it and taken it to market, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, I did give them a bit of a bad time. Well, not bad time, just hard time. But yeah, it's interesting when you've got an idea, and as you said, Todd, you've got an idea and you pitch it to a couple of other people, and they go against what you thought they were going to say. So then it's like, whoa, I think it's a really good idea, but the guys I'm pitching it to don't think it is. So do I carry on with it, or do I listen to these guys and forget about it, or? It's that whole. I think I agree with you, by the way, Todd, for this, and I agree with Adam. I think from the tiny little bit that I've heard, I think you should go with it because data mining and what you could do with that data that you collect, it could be stratospheric in what you could earn. So I agree with you, Todd. I forget everybody else. Go with that. Honestly, I'm with you.
You hear that, Simo?
I hear it.
Well, I texted our buddy Dave, didn't I? And I sent some of the information over to you. Now, Dave, we've had him on the podcast before. He's the guy who does our website. And we went to school with Dave, and so I've known him for years, and he's suddenly he'd got into computers and stuff like doing and this. Now all of a sudden he's got this huge business that he's running in the UK, and we're like, well, this is the same Dave that we went to school with. Fair play to the dude, and also fair play to him because, like I say, he does our website and he does it really cheaply for us. You know what I mean? It literally costs us like 15 quid a year, and we've got like a proper domain name, we've got a proper email and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's a top guy and he does it. He set it all up for us. But yeah, he gave, well, I tell you what, though, he made it sound like a lot of hard work, though, didn't he, building it out?
He did. Yeah, he did. I'm not expecting something. Listen, I'm trying to reach how many billions of people? I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but son of a gun. I don't think I'm a stupid guy by any means. I think I got a little bit of smarts to me, but I was a little bit confused on some of the stuff. So, I may have to phone a friend on what some of this means, or how to reach one of these points, or and then step 2. But I don't know. I think it's a dynamite idea, and I'm saying that because it was my idea. But I'm hoping it works. I don't know.
I do. I think the idea's got legs. What are your thoughts, Andy? You
have to log how much you drink and stuff as well. That's why it gets a bit worrying.
And that's what's going to be cool. It's going to be limitless. It's simple. You know what? You log, and by the way, I already got the name for it, folks. It's called The District, because if if you bring up a thesaurus, let's just say, and you type in the word district, it's neighborhood, it's community, and it's all this other stuff, which is what it is, right? You're going to this one central location to do all these different things. So the app's already called the district. Somebody can probably steal it now because, of course, I don't have that locked down. But anyhow, there's going to be literally a checklist where you just tap a box and boom, you're done. Tap a box and boom, you're done for that. And you're just going to scroll in everything, like what you had for breakfast, what you ate for dinner, all this other stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's a sexy idea to me, so I'm running with it, mama. You know what I mean?
I'm getting right, Todd. I'm going to play devil's advocate just this once. Okay, because I do this, and Adam and Andy will tell you I do this a lot. If you subscribe to your district and what do you as an individual benefit from doing that?
So let me be nice about this. I like my personal benefit is honestly just the fact that knowing that somebody is going to use something I created. Honestly, I think that is freaking cool. Having an idea and being a way to connect with people. That's why being a podcast host is so freaking awesome. You kidding me? Yeah. Because I'm putting something out there with this Southern dude, and for some reason stuff clicks, and like we're reaching people in India, we're reaching people in Singapore. We are all over the freaking world. But it's something that Johnny and I have created. So. Yeah. It's honestly, it's personal satisfaction. And I had this idea that for some reason it's connecting to other people. And then whatever else comes to follow, boom, there it is. Game, set, match, checkmate. I'm happy.
Yeah. Nice. I like it. Nice.
You're not worried when you call it the district, though. It sounds a little bit like the Hunger Games.
Yep. Survival of the fittest. Answer correctly. Don't lie in the answer. You know what I mean?
You watch the news at the minute.
Bacon, don't put it down just because it's popular. We'll find you.
See, you watch the news at the minute. It feels a little bit like it's going that way. Anyway, dude, this could just be an extension of that.
It could be.
It could be.
Now Simo's on board.
No, I'm still not on board.
I brought this guy into this freaking world, and I'm letting him do this. He still has a job right now, and I'm pretty ticked off about it. Now you're supposed to agree with me, Johnny.
That wouldn't take off, but I'm not going. Yeah, just put it this way: I won't be punching in my information in the morning when I eat for breakfast on my app.
So then let me say, I'm gonna text you every single day and ask you what you had, and I'll just plug it in too because I need those numbers.
Look, I don't even check my blood sugar every day like I'm supposed to. How am I going to punch in an app and tell you what I had for breakfast?
You should do that every day, by the way.
Yes, I know.
And if you don't, you're a bad man, so do it.
Yes.
So before we all knew of each other,
my wife and my doctor all the time.
Yeah, that's right. So before all of us knew each other, as in shows, right? I used to do this thing solo. And it's a thing on my show. I used to feel like I had a pretty professional podcast, and then I bring on Virginia's favorite son over here, and things just all went to hell. But so this is kind of like what our show is like too. So you guys are getting a flavor of what really Tijuana TC is actually like.
Honestly, the amount of podcasts that we've done, and we have an idea in mind. And after about 5 minutes, the idea just goes out of the window. We're on a left turn, and we're talking about something completely different than what we thought we were going to talk about. And I've known Adam for years and years and years, and I know Andy through Adam because of Andy and Adam's missus are best friends. So I've got to know Andy over a number of years. But me and Adam go back years, and we sort of on the same wavelength, and we sort of think the same thing. We don't always agree. In fact, we're probably polar opposites, really. But it sort of works. And we thought, well, we'll do this podcast. And Adam did one originally. Was it Beans Does Stuff? It was called originally back in the day. And obviously that's morphed and now into sort of TBR and the amount of left turns that we do, we come with an idea and we think we're going to talk about X, and actually within 10 or 15 minutes we're talking about Y, and it just happens. It's just the way it works. You're going to bring somebody on board and you think you're going to talk about this, and actually, you know what? It's something completely fudging different, and you just go with it, and it's just one of those things. It is what it is.
Let me tell you something. I'm pretty impressed because you guys at least get the X. Me and Simon will log. You want to know how the show works? Let me tell you how the show works. Simon already laughing. So we will record. I know we'll talk for like a few minutes, maybe like 3 or 5, Simon. And we're like, all right, bro, you ready to rock and roll and strut and stroll? And I think I say that every single show for some reason. And then what's up, and good evening to you. We do all that jazz, and then the show concludes. And during that beginning to the end, nothing was ever discussed. We just show up because you know what? He's a busy dude. He's the best family man I know. And he's with his family all the time. I got all the crap that I do. We show up. He texts me at like 9:25. Hey, dude, you ready? Yeah, man, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I always show up in like 10 or 15, but but I do show up. And and then after the show, we're like, hey, buddy, good job tonight. It was awesome. Talk for a little bit. He's super busy. I'm super. A lot of times we don't even get to talk till, hey, dude, you ready again? You know what I mean? Wow. So you guys at least get to an X. I'm really impressed. And this hat that I'm wearing is awesome. No. That's really hard to do, believe it or not, isn't it, Simon?
We start with X. We don't get to an X. We start with the X. We might not. we might not ever get to where we need to go to, but we always have. This is what we're going to start talking about. And what comes after that? It is what it is.
Todd is famous. He'll text me, are you ready, dude? Man, I'm at Kroger's. You're going to have to give me 15 minutes. I'll be home in 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, we're recording, so you need to fill. Come on, Phil.
But here's the thing, though, with our show. It's really cool because the one thing I can't stand from being in this thing for now 11 years since my start in all this jazz, I've listened to a lot of different shows, and the one thing that I cannot stand, is a pet peeve of mine, like you wouldn't believe, is when you can tell that people just like, there's a script and they're reading something and they go, okay, we talked about this. Now this is concluded. Now we need to open this section up and talk about this. There's nothing about it that's organic. And I think just from over time, the evolution of the show being, starting out all sports in the outdoors, now just being anything and everything in the world with Johnny, like there's something really cool about an organic conversation, right? Like we've had a few guests on the show. We don't try for guests all the time. Honestly, I don't reach out to a bunch of people to try to get them on. I just like talking to this guy. And like it's always just an organic convo. And if we do have somebody on, I don't say, hey, do you want to come on? Hey, buddy, you want to come on for an interview? No, I say, do you want to come on and just have a sit down conversation with Johnny and I? Of course I'm going to ask you questions. That's why the heck you're freaking here. But I'm not going to, like January 25th, 1993, what were you doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing weird or crazy like that. We just have conversations, and the fluidity with us is, I think it's good, but I also like how sometimes we don't know what we're going to go to next because we don't talk about stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it sounds like a legit organic conversation. Like you might not have seen your buddy for, I don't know, like 5 years, and you just had a little bit of chit chat back and forth. And it's like, okay, where do I go next? You know what I mean? I think people can relate to that because everybody does that every day. If you're at your place of employment and you're talking to a coworker, you don't map out every day what you're going to say to somebody. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. We said what we want the podcast to sound like is if we went down to London for an NFL weekend and we were in a pub and we sat around a table, what would the conversation sound like? And it's just 3 guys just talking about whatever they want to talk about, and it could be this, it could be that, it could be, and that's what we want to try and get to. And yes, we have the theme of beer, but it might be, actually, you know what? I really like that beer. And Adam might say, no, I hate it. And Andy might say, well, it's beer, so I love it, or it's meat, or whatever it may be. But we want to get to the point where it's three guys sitting around a table in a pub talking. That's the premise, really, as to what we're after. And obviously, you two guys coming on, we haven't scripted this. This is just, we're just going to talk about whatever we want to talk about. Doing a podcast, WWF, we talk about beer, we've talked about this, we've talked about that. That's an organic podcast to us. And I think that's why we sort of, obviously, Adam's invited you guys on, and it's a similar sort of philosophy in terms of what we're trying to do. We just want to chat.
That's right.
And
this is
left
hanging
turns
out with
are
the
always
guys,
fun.
Yeah, hang out with the guys, absolutely.
And the left turns are always fun because
Yeah,
you
they
never
are,
know
yeah.
what's coming. You never know what's going to come next.
We did a podcast with Chitty and Shiner. Oh my, we did so many left turns. We were nearly coming backwards. It was ridiculous. Like the left turns that those guys threw was just honestly, it was horrendous. It was fun. It was fun because we didn't know what we didn't know what was coming next. But it was funny.
Yeah.
You know what that teaches you? And this goes back from being a wrestling fan too. The unknown, it teaches you to think on your feet and to speak on one of these things. That's exactly what it teaches you. From being someone who was legitimately deathly afraid of face-to-face interaction for the first 25 years of my life, going through all those experiences and such, and just gathering this information from every experience that you have, which there's no such thing as a negative experience. You can take any freaking negative experience in your life and turn it somehow into a positive because you have the chance to grow and you have the chance to learn from it. So anytime that you're in a boat where, I don't know what the heck's going to happen, I just got to think on my feet and roll with it. It's an opportunity to learn. So, it's an opportunity to get even better on a microphone. And I think that's one of the coolest things about being a podcaster is not knowing what Johnny's going to say, not knowing what story he's going to tell about himself from 15 years ago. It's going to make me cry on the air.
No, I want to hear the story.
Like, I don't know if I'm going to have to go off on a rant and tear freaking Donnie apart because he cut my mic, on the Kitty and Shiner show. Like, it's, you don't know what you're going to get into, but it teaches you confidence and how to talk on a microphone.
Yeah.
So what's the? I'm interested now. So what's the story that made Todd cry? I want to know what that is.
You know what? This is one thing I used to say story time with Uncle Johnny because my beautiful little girl Lola, she knows Johnny as Uncle Johnny, and so it just so happens we've had a couple stories with Simon. And if you don't mind, guys, I wouldn't mind having Johnny tell a story. Like I would like to pick the story, and since Johnny's on the air, he's a really nice guy, and he's really not shaking his head right now like he thinks he is. So there's this, and you know what? We'll go with this since you guys know Titty and Shiner. So there's something about a photo or something. I don't know if you guys ever heard about it, but just so happens Johnny knows what I'm talking about. So 3, 2, 1, Simo, go.
Well, Beans is already shaking his head. Yeah, I know. Beans is already shaking his head. He knows the story. So, back in the day, it's been years ago now. Shiner, he had this thing that if he had a lady spend the night, she would have to leave before the morning, and he always gave her a hot pocket. So they ran a. He didn't want to be rude, so he'd give her a hot pocket to eat on the way home. Well, they had a contest to send in a semi-provocative photo of someone seductively holding a box of Hot Pockets. Well, I don't think they had very many entries, so I know when Titty and Shiner when they're recording. So I told my wife, I said, we're going to take this picture tonight. And I said, I'm going to send it to them in the middle of their podcast. So I had just gotten my We the People tattoo on this arm, and I went down. Of course, y'all know Shiner loves his PBRs. So I went down. I got a tall boy, a 24-ounce PBR. I had my tattooed in the wild hat, and I had a pair of leopard print bikini underwear.
Oh my God.
That's all I had on. And I had on my big snap-on knee-high socks that came up to my knees, and I laid on the bed. I laid on the bed like this, holding the PBR, and I had the Hot Pocket. I had a box of Hot Pockets set right across my junk. And I sent it to him in the middle of the podcast, and they told me the story later that they got it. They got the picture during break, and they said, "Don't open it. It's from Simo. I know he's something." So they got back on the air and opened it, and it was funny. Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I love my co-host. I really can't. You have no idea.
Well, and I excluded myself from the contest. I'm like, yeah, I am. What scared me was Titty texted me and he said, "We're using that for our cover art." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "No, you can't. You cannot use that for your cover art." I said, "Do not put that anywhere."
I'm still amazed that picture hasn't turned up somewhere that they ain't
Oh,
shown.
it has.
Sure it will.
It has.
I've never seen it, just to be clear.
You
Okay,
will.
good.
You will.
Todd thinks he's got it. He doesn't have it.
What's
Oh,
the
Todd
bet?
has it. Oh, Todd
What's
has
the
it.
bet that I don't have it?
See, the bad thing is that I can't get too much in it because all he's got to do is text my wife. She'll send it to him. She don't care.
The thing is, mate, Todd's already done that and he already has it. You just don't know about that.
You could be right.
Don't blow my cover, Gaz. What are you doing? Don't blow my cover.
Hold on.
Oh.
Keep talking.
That story was one of the top 3 favorite moments in my entire 11-year career.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Gosh, it came so out of the blue too. It was like I never knew like Simo had this seductive side, and just so happens he just bestowed it upon the world this one day, and I had. Oh my God!
There it is.
Guys, hold up.
Have you forgotten we put this on YouTube?
You know we put this on YouTube, right? Yes!
Oh, I forgot.
Yes! Yes!
That's on the next T-shirt run. That is.
Oh, I forgot.
Yes! Oh my gosh!
I forgot.
Genuinely, that's the next TBR merchandise T-shirt.
Oh.
It's there.
Listen. I got the change the beer to a TBR cup.
Perfect.
There you go. There you go. Simo, it's going on YouTube.
I forgot. Oh, I have to cut that out.
That's the first thing I thought.
Look how red Beans is. Look how red
He's as red as Andy's beard right now.
Not right? Oh, no, my face is red. I wasn't even thinking about that. I forgot.
That is genius.
You know how many? Oh man. Oh, we're selling so many calendars now. He's gonna be Simo's gonna be every single month.
January, February.
You are a stallion, Simon. Look at those legs, by the way, guys. Do you guys see?
I'll tell you another quick story. I'm not so a friend of my daughter's, they were just friends. He graduated this year. Well, my wife had the idea. She goes, "You ought to do something funny and take a picture and we'll put it on a T-shirt for his graduation." So my wife made a graduation cap, and we bought a sign that said, "Congratulations, grad." Well, threw on this fancy leopard print underwear, held the sign down here in front of my junk and posed for him and put it on a T-shirt.
Do you want to share that one too?
Nope. Oh, he got me back because he said, "Guess what? I'm going to the gym. Guess what shirt I'm wearing?" I'm like, "No, you're not."
Just working out in that. Brilliant.
Yeah, he's a great kid.
The YouTube views and subscribers are gonna soar. Now, thanks
Yeah,
to
that's a
one
good line of that.
Johnny Simonetti or Simonetti. It never matters because he's always ready. So
Clearly.
I wasn't ready for that though. I wasn't thinking.
you know he had too much NA, guys. So Gaz, to answer your question, you do have some. You do get a buzz apparently. I don't know.
Tied in beautifully to what we were talking about at the start. Do you still get the buzz? Absolutely.
It all
Perfect.
comes full circle, guys. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
The circle of life as a podcaster. This is what it is.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
I love you, dude.
I didn't even know where to go from that one. Dude.
No, we were on about left turns. That
I
was
think,
a left
you were
turn.
I think you were going to Y now, weren't you? I think
Yeah,
this was
that's it,
X. We had this
yeah, we
planned,
had
and
the
now we're
Y.
going to Y.
We had X. We're so far beyond Y now.
Why is right.
Oh my gosh.
I'm still sitting here in disbelief, man. I can't believe that. I wasn't even thinking.
Well, it's made my night.
Yeah,
I don't. That's perfect. Brilliant.
Tiddy and Shana are gonna love that one, I tell you.
Yeah.
Anyway, dude, we normally wrap it up around about the hour mark, trying to keep it sweet. So, have you guys got any questions for us before we wrap it up?
I do. I have one quick question.
Go for it.
So I told the story basically on like why I started a podcast, right? I've told that story 1,000 times. What made you guys want to start a podcast? Because to me, this whole world of speaking on a microphone for an invisible audience who we hope listens, you know, like it's not the easiest thing to be consistent with, you know, it's not. If you get on Apple Podcasts, you just type in, say, the letter R, and you click the first 3. Each show will maybe have like 3 episodes back in like 2018, right? And that's their last one. Consistency on this thing is so freaking hard. Staying fresh is so freaking hard. What was the inspiration for you guys to start your show? Because I know a lot of our listeners, they're going to hear this, and I want them to be introduced to you guys even more. So for our listeners, you know, what was your guys' go-to on how to get this thing started and or why?
Well, for myself, I started doing Beans stuff. Listen, I first got into podcast listening to Tiddy and Shara. I didn't listen to him before that. My family is originally from Oklahoma, from my dad's side, so I wanted to find out a little bit about Oklahoma. And so I literally just typed Oklahoma into the search app, and I'm flicking through. And the first one that jumps out at me is a show called The Tiddy and Shana Show, because my little girl, Matilda, I call her Tiddy. That's how everybody knows her. She's Tiddy. So I thought, man, I'll give this a go. You know, and if it's terrible, there's nothing lost. So I listened to it, and these guys crack me up. And I listened to it. I started listening every week. I'd message them, and they'd shout me out on the show. And I thought, this is something I'd love to do. But it's not something that I knew whether I knew I could do or not, because I think everybody knows me has said to me on one occasion or not, I never thought this would be something you'd do, because I am a really shy person. I'm quite insular. The idea of talking in front of a crowd, when I've been best man at a wedding, even standing up at my own wedding, and both of them. Oh, my wife's going to kill me for that one. And
I was on YouTube.
Yeah. And giving that speech, it fills me with absolute dread talking to any number of people. So when I look at the numbers and I think all these people are listening, if I think about that and I let that get in my head, it really, really bothers me. I can't do it. But I'm not. I'm sat here talking to you 4 guys on my screen, so it doesn't even concern me. But when it goes out and then I listen to it, and I listen to it back, I always listen to it back once I've edited it and think, wow, everybody else is listening to this. And, we're not in as many countries as you, but we're in 36 different countries. And that still blows my mind that someone out there in Guatemala has taken the time to listen to this show, and Lord only knows what they got out of it. And that's really got me started. And when I started doing it by myself, although it was always Beans Does Stuff, the idea was to try and get these 2 guys involved at some point and twist their arms and get somebody else involved, because I knew I couldn't do it by myself. I needed a co-host to do it with, just to make it more interesting, because you know what it's like when it's just
so
one voice.
hard.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult.
It's strange, because when Adam first mentioned doing the podcast to me, I originally said, I don't think I can commit to doing every week. I've got a wife, I've got 2 kids. I play golf. I'm really sporty. I've got lots of interests. I don't think I can commit to doing a weekly podcast. And Adam was like, okay, well, maybe give it a go, see what you think. And I did the first 2 or 3 after he did the Beanstalk stuff, and it sort of morphed into more what it is now. And I loved it. I love just what there's a phrase over in the UK called chewing the fat. I just love chewing the fat with the guys. Do you know, I just love just talking, sometimes BS, just meeting the guys, having a beer. And the podcast has morphed a few times. It's changed. We originally we weren't so beer orientated. We were very much, we'll talk about paranormal, we'll talk about conspiracy theories, we'll talk about politics, we'll talk about sport. And now it's morphed into beer. That's what it is with TBR. We're 3 guys who love beer. I just love meeting these guys. And as I say, I live next door to Adam, and I've known Adam for years, but I love meeting on a Tuesday. We podcast on a Tuesday, and it's a release for me. It's a way for me just to meet the guys, talk to some other guys like-minded, get some guests on if we can, do a couple of outside broadcasts. Okay, COVID has meant we can't, but go and just talk about the things that we want to talk about. And it's a release for me. I love it. It's a way for me to express myself and my opinions, my thoughts, and hopefully people agree. And if they don't and they disagree, I'm happy to have that conversation with them as well. I'm not precious. I'm not proud of, people can disagree with me. I haven't got a problem with that. And it's just, I enjoy chatting to the guys. I enjoy putting my thoughts out there, not being massively controversial, but just, look, wear my heart on my sleeve. This is what I think. These are my views. I'm happy for you to agree with me. If you disagree with me, I'm happy to have that conversation with you as well. And that for me is, and every Tuesday for me is podcast night. I love it. We have a couple of different beers. It's a way for me just to chat to my mates.
That's awesome.
I just do it so I can drink in the week.
There's nothing better than an honest podcaster, guys. Nothing better.
And you know what? For Andy, if you actually gave him a plate of meat, Andy was able to eat meat and drink beer on the podcast, I'm pretty sure he would do that as well.
I'd talk even less.
I'm not afraid to eat on the show. It's kind of been a new thing because I don't have time to eat. So I'm out. I'm just crunching away.
Yeah.
Look, I genuinely didn't think I would still be doing the podcast with Adam 80 episodes in or whatever we are now. And it, we're in 36 countries, and it blows my mind that some people in the United Arab Emirates and Iceland and New Zealand are actually tuning in to listen to what we have to say. And you know what? They might listen to one, they might listen to everyone. It just blows my mind that there are people out there that are tuning into what we have to say. So that's my gratification. It blows my mind.
And, if you ever do forget, if you log on to the district, you'll be able to see how many people listen to you in all these other countries, because people are going to log on and click on it, Simon.
He's still not having it, is he, Todd? He's like, yeah. But he doesn't believe it. He's not
feeling it.
No.
Listen, I got this guy to start the show. His daughter had to turn the computer on for him, so we'll slowly get to the district. All right.
Gaz laughs, but we did exactly the same thing with him. His
daughter
does his audio, and the worst thing is he's an IT teacher.
Why did you? I lasted an hour and however long it is in the podcast without saying that, and you had to mention it right at the end.
One quick.
Well, that's all right.
We went through many trials and tribulations trying to get Simon on here, but darn it, we did it now, so we're good.
And it was worth it.
It was definitely worth it. Definitely.
Very much.
like I said, I appreciate it too. Like you were talking about, Gaz, when Todd asked me, I was the same way. I didn't know if I was going to be able to commit to every week. At the time, we were taking care of my father-in-law. We had been taking care of him for 5 years. And and there were nights when, something would go wrong. And I'm like, can't make it. This is going on. Todd's always, you take care of families first, So I understood the difficulty. I wasn't sure it was going to do it. And yes, we've been 2 or 3 weeks before. Either I had something going on with at home, my father-in-law, or Todd had something going on in his personal life and work. So, we try to get one out every week. And like you said, it's a release. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. I thank Todd all the time, man. Like, seriously, you brought this Southern dude in that sounds like cornbread on a podcast. So, man, I appreciate it. And thank you guys again for having us, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah, it absolutely has. And I gotta say thank you one more time for one more thing too. The amount of appreciation I have for you three guys and what you did for me 2 weeks ago on my Braden episode, I can't tell you how special that portion of the show was for me. I know you guys gave your shout outs, and Simo did too. And I'm happy to say he made a full recovery. He's good. He's back up, and yes, absolutely. He's a tough little 13-year-old, and he's able to make a full recovery. It's what happened was, he races go-karts. That's the thing over here. And he got hit from behind. This person was avoiding a wreck and hit him, and he got ejected from his go-kart and was all jacked up. He got rushed to the ER like immediately and everything. And there's a lot of scares, but he's making an absolute full recovery, and he'll be happy and healthy. So for what you guys did for our show and for that boy, because I found out from talking to his mom, they were on their way somewhere. I don't remember their location and where they were going. Doesn't matter for the story. But the first time that she heard it, she wanted to be with him. So I said, hey, look, we did something special for him. Here's the link, hope you enjoy. Everybody means it, And she said, well, I'm going to wait. Like, honestly, I don't think I would have the power just to hold off. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's cool. So they were together, and apparently it was the biggest smile she's seen out of him in a really long time. So thank you guys for your part in that. That was a really cool thing. And, to the Atomic Drop Show guys and Joel and Stacy of Reload, thank you guys very much. That was one of the coolest things that our show's ever done. So very, very much appreciated.
No problem. For me, I'll give him another little shout out, Braden. Great to hear that you're doing so well, buddy. Keep chasing your dreams, little guy. From everybody here at TBR, I'm really, really pleased that you're making a recovery. Hopefully, it won't be too long before you're back to full health. And as I say, keep chasing those dreams, little guy. We'll be rooting for you over in the UK. Top man.
Yeah, man, I'd echo that as well. Cheers, dude. Well, that brings us pretty much up to where we normally call it a day. So, who wants to say their goodbyes first? We'll let our guests go first. So, Todd and Johnny, I'll let you fight it out amongst yourselves.
If you guys would like to follow the show, you can follow us on Instagram, on the Toddcast, on TikTok. If you would like to email our show on the Toddcast@gmail.com, and hit the follow button on Facebook, Todd Orndorf on the Toddcast. And my name is Todd Orndorf. Out.
Peace.
Guys?
Yeah, brilliant. Loved it. Love meeting you two guys. Again, if anybody's got any comments they want to sort of hit us up with, follow us on all the normal social media outlets. Really, really enjoyed this episode. Great to chat to you guys. Hopefully it's the first of a couple, 2 or 3 down the line. Never know what's going to happen. So love to have you guys back on with us. Gaz out.
Cheers, dude. Andy?
That's been good. I enjoyed doing the podcast with guests as well, because it's always interesting to hear other people's perspective and stuff. And yeah, hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Absolutely. So if you're a regular listener to Tallboy Radio, I hope you've enjoyed listening to Todd and Johnny. And like you, Todd's giving you all the places you can go and listen. Do that. Definitely give their show a listen. I listen every single week. That's a promise. And if you listen to Todd and Johnny, why not hang out here too? It's all good. Take care, guys.